Hi everybody, John Randall here. It's May 2024 and I'm going to share with you the restoration of this Mistral Take-Off. This is a board I've always wanted, but I couldn't afford it back in the day. And this is part of really the last part of my early 80s Mistral collection. So I'm very excited. This board's got a few issues, so I'll be making several videos that actually go through how to repair different aspects of it. But let's take a look at the board first. Overall, the top of the board is in good shape. One of the things to look for on these Mistral boards is whether the nose is intact, which it is. The stickers are actually in surprisingly good condition, so I'm not going to have to worry about replacing those because it can be difficult or expensive or both. Somebody's put a little bit of non-skid on it in the past, this stuff here. I'm going to try and remove that. The mast mounts, they're looking good. There's no cracks or damage there, and it did actually come with the pins that hold the mast base in there. Coming along further, the foot straps are all there. They're pretty worn, so I might actually look at making some new covers. And you can see some of my other videos that talk about how to replace Mistral foot straps or how to build your own covers. The centerboard is here. It's actually It does actually move, so that's a good sign. And the graphics and everything else around the rest of the board looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip it over and we're going to take a look at the underside. I'll just put the camera on the stand. So as we look at the underside, there's a few things to notice. Obviously the graphics are fairly worn, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. The graphic on the nose here, Mistral, that's actually one I might see if I can replace. The rest of the board is really in good shape. It needs a serious clean. This thing's like covered in dirt. Now the first real issue is down here. There's a crack or a punch hole. So I'm going to have to fill that up with epoxy, and I won't be discussing that in this video, but in one of my future ones I will. The next is the centerboard. You can see it's had a bit of repair done to the top of it, so I'm going to have to fill that, reshape it, repaint it, but at least it's complete and it's damaged, not sort of too damaged, so I can actually resurrect that one. And then the last thing, which is really interesting about this one, notice the fin. It's got actually two fins. How it's been cemented in with this black super hard putty. It feels like stone actually. So getting the fin out is a bit of a challenge. You can kind of see here I've already done one because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to. I had to dig this fin out. This is what they look like when they come out. Mistral had this idea that they could have these fins that you could sort of adjust and rotate. You could adjust the height and the angle of the fins. So I'm going to restore that. Now, part of the problem here is the plastic in the fin system has become very brittle, and there's all these special little retaining pieces to hold this in. So I'm going to have to come up with something else. Okay, so about 3 things to do on the board. Clean it, fix that hole, fix the centerboard, reshape it, and then get the other fin out and rebuild the fin system. So today I'm really going to focus mainly on cleaning, and I might see if we can dig out that other fin. That's really going to be sort of part 1 of this. Okay, before we go any further, I'll just show you the other bits and pieces that came with this. It did come with a boom. So it's a pretty old school boom, and I don't know whether you can see, but it's not actually straight. It's got a bend in it. So I probably won't use the boom. I might keep the old school uphaul from it, but that's probably all I'm going to use from the boom. The other thing is it did come with a sail, so I've not even unwrapped the sail. I'm going to have a look at the sail and the mast base and see what we can do with that. So let me just put the camera on a stand. Okay, we'll take a look at this sail. Okay, so the sail is in surprisingly good condition. It's the original sail. It says on it 5.7 square meters, so kind of a large sail for what you consider a wave jumper. But hey, this is wave jumpers back in the 80s. It's going to be I'm excited to have this sail. I wasn't even planning on using it, but I actually will use this because it's in great shape. It's a bit dirty. I can't see any tears or anything, so if it does need repair, I'll take it to my sail maker, but I think it's going to be great. So we've got the sail. It's still, whoever had it, the previous owner, it's all tied up, so I'm going to actually release the downhaul if I can undo the knot and take a look at the universal joint and make sure all of that's good, and the mast as well. So somebody's actually tied all this up. Tape. See if I can undo it. Okay, so at least we can get to the mast base. Now the mast base is actually got a whole bunch of cracking, so this universal joint's going to need to be replaced. And the piece that goes in the board is actually looking really good, so I can reuse this piece if I can get it off. And I did actually order a replacement one of these. There's a guy in France who he's got a company called AMP 3D, AMP 3D. You can find him on Facebook, and he manufactures lots of spare parts, plastic parts for Mistral sailboards. And I think you can pretty much make anything. So I've ordered one of these. As I say, if I can reuse this one, I will. It's got the original little spare plug in it. And down here, it's also got the most important thing, these retaining pins that actually hold the plug into the board. Let me see if I can just release this sail a bit. Not great to keep your sails under tension, but who knows, this sail has probably been under tension for 20 years, for all I know. Clearly, all of this stuff has been sitting outside and has not been used for a long time. Now, for those of you who don't know, although I'm guessing most of you do if you're watching this, the Mistral Take-Off came out in the early 80s, around about 82, maybe even a little bit before that. It was one of the first Mistral boards, and it was one of the first wave jumpers. And you can kind of tell, even when it came out, it was already somewhat out of date. The two fins and the centreboard, you know, people weren't really using centreboards on wave jumpers, and just the sheer size of it and the weight of it. So it is a very, very early example of a wave jumper. Fortunately, where I sail, it's generally pretty flat. It's very, very shallow. And a lot of the time I have offshore wind, most of the time in fact. So this board is going to be great for me because it does have the centreboard, which makes it easier to get back to shore. And with offshore winds where I am, usually what happens is about the first 500 to 600 feet of water off the shore, there's hardly any wind at all because the shoreline actually cuts the wind off. So it's not a great place to sail if you've got a board that's got like big long fins, and no centreboard, because it's really hard to get back to shore. But this, like the other Mistral boards I've got, which all have fins, have all got centreboards, make life at that last sort of 500 feet much, much more pleasant. And of course with this one, the volume of it, I can easily uphaul it, so I don't have to worry about lying in the water with this. And yes, it's not a super high performance board, but then again, it's not going to go out and wild surf or anything like that. It has done its dues, so it gets to enjoy retirement as well, and some gentle riding and we're going to have a lot of fun and make it look great. So I think I've almost got this. Wow. There we go. As I say, I'm not sure this sail has been off here for 20 years. So the mast, my other Mistral masts that I've got are actually kind of blue. So I don't know if this is the original Mistral mast or not. I'm kind of guessing it probably isn't, but it looks all right. So we might be able to just continue to use the mast. Yeah, it's a Gastra sail. The wear and tear here is pretty good. Somebody did actually have a mast protector, so that's great. So yeah, I think we're good to go with this. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to clean this board up a bit. So stay tuned. When it comes time to clean, these are some of the products I like to use. The bicarb of soda, just a sort of an abrasive, methylated spirits, goo off, and dissolve it, as well as these magic erasers, great for getting some of the light scratches out. And then my secret weapon at the end here is the instant hull cleaner made by Starbright. Sort of an acidic product, but you put it on and it takes a whole lot of the yellowing and the stains out of boards without damaging them. So you can kind of see the color of this. I'm going to start by wetting it down and just using some of the different cleaners, see what works, and we'll take it from there. We'll get a little bit of dissolve it on. Start with the bottom. Before I go too far, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape over that that little hole. Get a little bit of water, and we'll see how we go with the magic eraser. All right, so already a big difference, just using the little bit of goo off and using the cleaners. You can see the improvement in the color. You can see here a lot of this, still this brown muck that has been used. I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to be able to get off, but it's probably going to take a few efforts. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put some of that hull cleaner on I talked about, just to see if we can even brighten it up a bit more, because I really want to have as clean a surface as I possibly can, especially when I've got to do a little bit more messy work like removing that fin at the back, and then we'll have a look at the top. This is the Starbright hull cleaner I've talked about before in some of my other videos. So I'm going to put in a spray bottle, then I'm just going to spray it on and let it sit for a while. Okay, so I put sort of 2 sprays over about 5 minutes. What I'm going to do now is just give it a bit of a rub. Got the gloves on because this stuff is pretty caustic. With the erasers, just to kind of rub off any of the harder pieces. There are a few marks on it that aren't going to come off, like, or at least not in this clean. And then I'm just going to hose it down. We'll flip it over and do the top. Okay, so let's take a look. Couple of rounds of rubbing with the magic eraser plus the Star Bright hull cleaner. Let's see what it's done. Hopefully you can see everything is a lot whiter than what it was. Now, an interesting thing we can do as a comparison here is I'm going to pull off that bit of tape that I used to cover that little hole, and we'll see what it looked like before and after. So you can see, hopefully, a difference between the white here and the dirt there. So, you know, this is not finished yet. There'll need to be some more cleaning. And you'll find a lot of guys in the restoration business, they'll really like respray the whole thing and all that. I tend not like, I really don't want to do that if I can. I just want the board, you know, to have all of its history. Sure, I want to make sure it looks good. And this one will look really good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip it over, and I'm basically going to repeat the process for the top. We can take a little look. Let's start the process again from the back. Alrighty, so that's one just quick clean, and you can see already what a difference it's made. Haven't lifted off the non-skid yet, that extra non-skid, but the rest of the board is looking pretty nice. Okay, so sometimes removing these non-skids and other things that are on your board can be a bit of a challenge to figure out what to use, whether it's nail polish remover like acetone or even gasoline. Often the goo off type stuff works. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use methylated spirits on this one and see if that removes it or dissolves it a little bit better. So I'm going to pick a spot here and I'm going to put some on, let it sit, and then we'll have a look. Okay, so pouring on some methylated spirits. I'm just going to hit it here with my dish scrubber or maybe my magic eraser, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so that seems to be doing the trick. At least the surface. So yeah, what a difference it makes. You can see this is almost completely gone. We'll give them all a rub to get this top layer off. Let's have a look at this board. So you can see a huge difference. all of that non-skid is gone. One thing to be aware of, there was one piece up there where the graphic is, and it's easy to rub away some of the graphic, and that's actually what's occurred. So there's a little bit of damage I've done in my actual cleaning here, you'll see. Right there, just a bit of discoloration of the graphic, probably from the methylated spirits, or even just from the rubbing. But so I'm just going to, that last little piece that's there, I'm just going to kind of gently work that over time. Probably not put too many more chemicals on it, but boy, what a difference. So that's about all I'm going to do for today. I'm going to continue this video tomorrow, and I'm going to remove the that other fin just so you can see the process there, and then we'll start a new video. Okay, we're going to start working on removing this fin. It's actually been glued in using something like JB Weld on this Mistral Take-Off. The actual material itself here is like, it's really quite hard. So I'm going to dig it out with it's going to be a bit brutal, using a chisel. I've even got a hammer and a few other bits and pieces. I did manage to get one of them out already. So I think I have a technique to do it. The one that came out looks like this. So this all sits in here. These fins would actually rotate, so you could, if you hit a sandbar or something, or if you wanted to put them in a different position, you could deal with that, or the board would handle it. So, part of this process is getting the fin out first, then I've got to rebuild the whole mechanism that holds it in, and then I've actually got to clean out what's down in there. But I'm going to start on this fin today. And finally, we managed to get it up. So wedged in there, out it comes. The good news is the fin itself is in nice shape. Obviously, I'm gonna have to clean all of this glue off, this whatever it is, JB Weld stuff. I'm gonna have to clean up the slots. Let me show you what's inside the slots. One of the things I'm gonna point out is these little pins here. This is what used to hold the old fin system in. They're all like shattered, or the plastic around there is really weak. So I'm going to come up with a new system that uses this retaining pin to actually hold the fin in place and allows you to move it. But it's not going to rely on just these little pins up here. I think I'm going to have like a couple of little plates that are going to sit across. So it should be pretty strong. What it won't have compared to the original system is, I believe the original system had retaining clips and things that made it very easy to adjust the fins. But honestly, I'm probably going to adjust them once and never adjust them again. So my system will probably involve having a few screws that actually hold the fins in place, but you will still be able to move it. So I'm going to grab the camera and just kind of show you what's inside. So you can kind of, let me see. You can kind of see here how a lot of the plastic is broken away. Inside here, there's a lot of still this weld stuff that's got to go. Here's the one I just took out. So, I'm just grabbing a screwdriver. I'm going to have to dig all of this out. all of this stuff here and here and clean all of this up. And of course clean the fin up, but the good news is the fin's out, and now I can start cleaning up the back of the board, start taking some measurements, and I'll probably do another little short video that will just actually show the replacement system that I'm thinking I'll use. Okay, now I've never actually owned one of these Mistral Take-Off boards. I think, as I said earlier in my video, I've always wanted one, but it was always out of reach, especially in the 80s when I didn't have any money. So I'm not exactly sure how these things work. What I do know is these notches here on the top of the fin actually correlate with the notches that are inside the fin box. So there's about, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 notches inside there, which means these 2 little notches on the top here actually can go in, and then the little pin on the side used to be part of a mounting system that would go in here and use these little retaining screws. Now the system I'm going to use, I'm not going to be able to use a replacement of the original because you actually can't buy them anymore. Also, the plastic is really brittle and it's starting to break around there. So I'm going to come up with a system that is a little bit more robust and should last a bit longer. So just to show you how this works though, the basic premise is the fin can be set in different positions. So if I put it, how about we put it a fair way back. Kind of feel it's notched in there, and that's like wickedly laid back. And I think the idea is that it would sort of kick up maybe if you hit a sandbar or something. I'm not 100% sure about that, but let me reposition it now. So that's a more traditional sort of position you would expect to see a fin. Now I think we can also probably come up a bit straighter. And I think that's probably about as vertical as it goes from what I can tell. So as I say, I'm going to make it so you can adjust the fin, but the truth is I probably never will. So that's it. I'm going to clean out the other fin box a little bit, get some of the muck out of there, and then clean the fins up and start taking some measurements so I can buy the parts that how I want to construct my new fin system.